Wait, so how do you get that kind of computing power? Like, are there just, I assume there's farms of servers, just, like it's just someone that invested in a farm, right? I mean, is that how it works?
Initially, it was just people at home in their bedroom because, you know, if you found a block, you would get $1. And so it wasn't that exciting. But now today, when you find a block on the blockchain, you get, you know, $80,000 plus. So now it's big business. So people have big, giant warehouses filled with tens of millions of dollars of this mining equipment, using, you know, tens of megawatts of power per location. And it's a big business at this point. And you can still do it at home. One of the most important factors, though, is the cost of electricity. So the cheaper your electricity is, the more profitable your Bitcoin mining can be.
So I assume there's some Bitcoin people that probably want to go into solar and move to Nevada or something.
Yep, and then there's people going around looking at buying power plants and buying hydroelectric dams and all sorts of stuff. It's really become a worldwide major industry at this point.
Yeah, I mentioned to you at the beginning we're going to have to do some definitions here. So blockchain, what is blockchain?
So blockchain is just a fancy name for this worldwide ledger that's kept on everybody's computer that's running this copy of the software. And the ledger stays in sync with every other copy. So that's basically what a blockchain is. And the reason it's called a blockchain is that ledger, it's not updated all the time, it's updated in steps. And each step or update is a block of new information that's attached, and they're all chained together mathematically. So they're all in order. So if a new block gets added to the end of the blockchain on average once every 10 minutes. And now the blockchain is, I don't know, coming up on 500,000 blocks long. And it's been going on for, I don't know, 9 years now, something like that.
Yeah. What are most people actually using Bitcoin for right now? Like, are they using it mostly just to transfer money from person to person? Or I noticed actually just 2 days ago, I bought something on Overstock.com, and it was the first time that I ever saw on an e-commerce site that I could have paid in Bitcoin. I had actually never seen that before. But what are most people using Bitcoin for?
I think it depends. That's kind of like asking, what do most people use money for?
And fair enough.
In my book, Bitcoin is money. So people use money in different ways. Some people save with it. Some people spend it. Some people gamble on the internet with it. Some people buy drugs with it. Some people do whatever it is they want with it. But in my point of view, each person owns their own money, and they should be free to do whatever they want with it, so long as they're not initiating force or fraud against other people. And
yeah. But I'm curious, do you know what any of the trends are? Like, are people really at the moment just getting into Bitcoin so they can save it, hoping that, you know, treating it more as a stock than actual cash, or are they? And we can also talk about a little bit about the split with Bitcoin Cash too. That's probably a good segue to that. But do you have any sense of what the actual habits are?
Yeah, so I think that's a great segue into that. So when I first got involved in Bitcoin, I was the first person in the entire world to start investing in Bitcoin startups. So my first step.
Well, let's pause there for a second. So this is 2011, right?
Right. February 2011, Bitcoins are less than $1 each.
Okay, and what possessed you to get involved? Like, what did you see that you were like, all right, this is going to be something?
So I grew up in Silicon Valley, been playing with computers since I was a little kid, loved computers all the time. And my hobby was studying economics. And just kind of by chance, I came across one economics book in junior high when my mother told me I couldn't play any more Nintendo. I had to go and do something else. So I picked up a book off the bookshelf, and just by luck, it was a book called Socialism by Ludwig von Mises. And some people may know who that is and what that book is, and most people I expect won't. And when I picked up that book, I thought it was a pro-socialism book. And I didn't really even know what socialism was, but I kind of knew that Americans were supposed to be opposed to socialism. But I thought, you know, I should have an open mind. I should at least hear what the other side of this point of view has to say. And it turned out that I think it was the Wall Street Journal referred to Ludwig von Mises' book Socialism as Ludwig von Mises' devastating critique of socialism. And in this book, he kind of points out that prices are incredibly important. And without the pricing mechanism, you don't know what raw resources should be used to produce what consumer goods. So this, you know, my glass of water here is made of glass that I don't even know how they make the glass, but I guess some sand and they melt it down or something like that. But without the prices...
We got it from Target, for the record, so we spare no expense around here, you know what I'm saying?
Right. And with the prices that go into the sand and then the factory and this and that, they know that maybe they should make glasses out of sand rather than glasses out of gold or glasses out of copper, or take your pick. And so all the prices all over the world allocate all of these resources and all of these companies and all of these factories and people and individuals all the way to the time when you get to Target and you look at the different glasses there and you think, this one's glass, this one's plastic, this one suits my need better than this one, and this one costs this much. And it allocates the resources of the entire world. And without a pricing mechanism, you have no idea what raw resources should be used to create what consumer goods. And reading this book, I was like, wow. anytime the government gets involved in any area of the economy, they're causing a misallocation of resources, and resources are being diverted from their most economically efficient use to something that's less economically efficient. And saying something's less economically efficient is just a fancier way of saying you're making the world a poorer place than it otherwise would have been. And so I found these ideas incredibly interesting, and it gave me a better understanding of the world. And so I read one economics book after another, after another, after another. And so I got to read these theories about the origin of money and what the origin of money is. And the idea of the origin of money is that it starts out as a commodity, but not just any commodity. It has to be a commodity that's easily recognizable, easily divisible, easily transportable. You can store it easily for a long time and it won't, go moldy or disappear. And it has to have these certain characteristics that make something as money. And I read about these theories in the books, and I was pretty convinced by the theories. And not to go down a whole other tangent, but I actually did some time in federal prison in the U.S. as well. And when I was in federal...
I've got it noted right there.
Okay. While I was in federal prison, I got to see firsthand in this micro-prison economy that sure enough, the theories in the books that I had read about the origin of money were true in practice. So I got to see within the prison that sure enough, people are using commodities as money. So in prison, people use tobacco and postage stamps and top ramen soups as money, because all of those things are easily storable, easily transportable, easily divisible, easily recognizable, and of course a limited supply is important as well. And so I got to see firsthand before my eyes that the theories that I had read about in the books are actually true in practice. And then Bitcoin came along, and I saw Bitcoin, and I knew from the theories in the books and from the practical experience and the empirical evidence I had from in the prison economy, I knew people were going to start using it as money. And because the supply of Bitcoin was limited, and I knew people were going to start using it as money, that meant the price of Bitcoin in terms of dollars would have to go up. So my first step was to buy a bunch of Bitcoin, and my next step was to start building business.
Sorry to interrupt, but at that early stage, when you say, all right, I'm going to buy Bitcoin, who are you actually even buying it from then?
So this was, I think, February of 2011, and so there wasn't really an easy way to buy Bitcoin at that point. There was no Coinbase. There wasn't much of anything other than this one company called Mt. Gox, and it wasn't really much of a company at that point. So I sent my first wire to a person's personal bank account, a guy named Jed McCaleb, to his personal bank account in New York, and I got my first Bitcoins there. And then in parallel, I was trying to buy Bitcoins from another guy off the internet. For anybody who's been around in Bitcoin for a while, they may have seen the physical Cassius Bitcoin. So the guy behind that was also nice enough to sell me some Bitcoins.
Yeah.
And
so at one time there was actually a physical...
There still are, but they're more of a collector's item at this point. And basically it's a physical coin with a hologram, and when you peel the hologram off, you can see that it's been tampered with, and underneath the hologram is the magic number that's required to actually spin the Bitcoins.
Did they stop? So they still do make those, or
maybe someone somewhere is still making them? But
was the reason just because at the beginning people needed some sort of physical representation just to kind of understand?
I think the main reason is it made it easier for people to get a hold of Bitcoin. So one of the main things that I did that really helped spread a Bitcoin adoption in the early days, in 2012, I think it was, when Bitcoins were like $3 each, I started selling these physical Bitcoins, and I accepted credit cards and PayPal, and I would ship them via FedEx, and we had proof of delivery, so it made it hard for people to do credit card chargebacks or that sort of thing. And we sold thousands and thousands of these physical Bitcoins to people all over the world that way, and it was an easy way for people to get their first Bitcoin, because then they could peel off the sticker and redeem them onto their computer or do whatever they wanted with them from there. And today they're quite the collector's items, because there's not too many left of those early Cassius physical Bitcoins. Right.
So, so you make this initial investment, 2011, 2012. When did you start to realize that this really was becoming something? And as we speak right now, Bitcoin is basically at its highest value of all time, in effect.
Yeah, I knew from day one, once I put together the pieces in my mind and I understood that Bitcoin couldn't be shut down or stopped or controlled in any way, and that there's a limited supply, I was so excited about this that I heard about it as I was eating breakfast at around 10 a.m. with the full intent of going into my office that day. Didn't make it. I stayed home and read about Bitcoin all day. I stayed up all night the next day until around 4 p.m. the next day, and I got too tired and I fell asleep for only about an hour, and then woke up again and read all about Bitcoin. And I went on sleeping maybe an hour and a half per night for about a whole week.
Wow.
Until I got so sick from lack of sleep, I had to call my friend and say, help me, I'm so sick. And he came and picked me up and drove me to the hospital, and they gave me some sort of a sedative or something, and I passed out asleep for maybe 12 or 16 hours.
Jesus.
But then woke up again, and it was all Bitcoin. And here we are about 7 years later, and it's been all Bitcoin all day, every day for 7 years now, because this is literally, it's one of the most important inventions in the entire history of humankind, right up there on par with the importance of the invention of the wheel or the electricity or the transistor. That's how big of a deal the invention of Bitcoin is.